Hello and Namaste. And today we will be taking the wall chart for history. So, lot of the aspirants who are preparing for the UPSC and state service examinations, they all have to study history. They have to study ancient, medieval, and modern. And the most important and the tough part is that history is so vast, it is so wide that it becomes impossible to remember everything until you have a chronology of things ready with you. So, Plus Pramesh has brought to you a wall chart wherein we have tried our best to accommodate every major happening in the history, starting from the ancient and going till the modern history. So, all your problems of going through the papers, finding which event happened when, how to align them in a chronological order are just solved by sticking this wall chart in anywhere in your room, be it your cupboard, be it the wall, but having this will actually make your preparation little more easier. Before we start, so you can find this wall chart on Amazon, also on Plus Pramesh e-libraries website, also even on the Flipkart. And if you can't go to these websites, then here is the contact number that you can call upon, and 24/7 you can find someone actually accepting the call. Before we move forward, this is how the wall chart will look. So you can see that it will start from this ancient India and see how it goes through different dynasties, Mauryas, Guptas, and South India, and then it covers through medieval India. Then it goes to the Delhi Sultanate, then the Mughal Empire in between, and then we go to the modern India. Okay, and to make your preparation little more synchronized, we've also added something about the independent India. So in this one wall chart, you get everything of history. So in this, what I will recommend you to do is basically sticking this wall chart, and then if there are certain events that you think are important, you can add them, no? So if you buy this wall chart, suppose there is an event that you find is of importance, you can just put an arrow here and put a sticky note over here. Similarly, you can do for lot many things. And this way you will realize that you have entire history on just one wall chart. Maybe there are many sticky notes here and there, but you will have entire history on a one wall chart, which is like an amazing achievement, even before you attempt and go for sit for prelims. Before we move any further, you should know about who is educating or who is the teacher for this course. So my name is Supriya Singhal. I've appeared for UPSC Indian Forest Services examination interview actually 2018 and 2019. I've written UPSC Civil Services Mains examination 2019 and also RAS Mains. And here I am with a food blog on Instagram by the name of Crispy Stories. You can also find me on YouTube by the same name, Crispy Stories or Supriya Singhal, and even on Zomato. So this goes by my profile. And now we will start with the ancient Indian history. So the ancient Indian history, basically, technically we say that the Indian history we are talking about starts from 2500 BC to 1200 AD. And therefore you will find that here we have started with the Harappan civilization. But to ensure that you have a comprehensive preparation, I'll tell you that what lies before that. So if you have read NCERTs or Tamil Nadu book or any other book that you're following for studying history, you must have realized that they talk about three forms of history, right? What are the three forms of history? One is the prehistory, other is proto-history, and the last one is history. Okay? Okay. So now what is the difference between prehistory, proto-history and history? Therefore, prehistory is basically that history wherein you didn't find any written, you can say inscriptions or any written item which you can actually say that this belonged to particular this period. So you might have found tools, you might have found huts, etc. But you really can't find any written evidences. Okay, that is called as the prehistory. Then what comes in the proto-history? Proto-history is that you have found written evidences, but you can't decipher them. What happened in Harappan civilization? Basically, you found that there were scripts written. You found that they were written from right to left, like how we write Urdu. You found that they were written, the script name was called as Bucephalus, but you could not actually decipher them. You did not know what they actually meant. You could only see symbols written because it was a pictographic script, but you really didn't know how to interpret it, like what is written in that message. So that is why that type of history we called as that era of history we call as the proto-history. And after that, whatever written evidences we got, we were able to decipher them starting from the Vedic time, because we have read Rig Veda, Sam Veda, Yajurveda, Atharveda. We have drawn inferences from them, and that particular history we can understand. Those particular literary items we can actually we can infer also, and that is why that is called as the history that we study. So before moving anything, just remember history is divided into three parts: prehistory, proto-history, and history. Okay. Now what comes in the prehistory? So starting as like as back as you can go, probably like from the time when mankind might have appeared. So from 1 lakh, suppose from the example, we might go from 4 lakh to the present, I'll call it as before Indus Valley civilization. So that time is called as the prehistoric time. Okay, from like going as back as you can, from the starting of the mankind till your Indus Valley civilization is the prehistoric time. So this particular time period is basically, if you know, has been divided into three parts. One is Paleolithic, other is Mesolithic, and then comes your Neolithic. Okay, so Paleolithic, Mesolithic, and Neolithic. So this all is coming before this. Okay, Indus Valley civilization. From here you will see that this is the starting point for what? For proto-history. And what are we discussing? We're discussing prehistory. So prehistory has Paleolithic, Mesolithic, and Neolithic. Okay, now what is there in Paleolithic? So Paleolithic also you will find basically the lithic word. So the word goes here as Paleolithic. Okay, the paleo means old and lithic means stone. Okay, so now it is easy to remember. Paleolithic means old stone, and what is Paleolithic? It's an age. So it's an old stone age. Similarly, Mesolithic. Meso means somewhere in moderate. Okay, something middle. So middle stone age. And now Neolithic means, Neo means new, so new stone age. Old stone age, middle stone age, new stone age. Okay, so if you have to divide the time period, so Paleolithic might go somewhere like from 4 lakh years to it is the largest by actually, if you will find that more than 90% of our history is in the prehistoric times, because you can see now you have covered lakhs and lakhs of years. Okay, and from here to here, like till afterwards prehistory, if you even take entire proto history and the history that we know till now, like till 2020, it will not be more than 10% of the entire humankind's history. Okay, so prehistoric times has the maximum time scale, and in that also Paleolithic has the maximum time scale. So you will find that Paleolithic has been divided in upper, middle, and lower Paleolithic period. Okay, and this Paleolithic goes around from 4 lakh to round off about 12,000 or 10,000 years. And why have I written this 12,000 or 10,000? Because of the differences in the books mentioned. So if you read Tamil Nadu book, you might find a different figure. If you read NCERT, you might find a different figure. But this 12,000 or 10,000 years ago, that particular figure is almost the same. Okay, so you can, because history cannot be say that a particular date this thing happened until you have a written record. Okay, so you will find that this goes from here to here. So you can see so much time has been elapsed in this. Then comes the Mesolithic age. Mesolithic age, you will find it's a very short transition period. Okay, wherein what was happening, the earth's temperature was changing. The earth was little warming. It was warming. And therefore you will find that new grasses have started coming in. People have started actually towards, from living a nomadic life, now they're shifting to live a settled life. They're not exactly lived in a settled life, they are shifting. Okay, they have started domesticating, but have they domesticated? Might be no. Okay, so they are shifting, they are transitioning, and that is why Mesolithic is called as the transition stage. Okay, then comes the Neolithic, and Neolithic is where you will find that it's a new stone age where people have settled, they have made houses in the form of huts, they have domesticated animals, and they've also started growing food basically. So from hunter and gatherer to growing food, this is a big transition. Okay, here you can also find certain burials also happening where people are actually burying their close relatives, etc. So this is like Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic. Okay, Paleo, Meso, Neo. And in Paleolithic we already studied the maximum time taken. Then Mesolithic is around from around 2,000 years to 2,500 years. And if I have to go by a certain standard book, it will be around 10,000 years to 8,000 years. And then Neolithic goes from 8,000 years to around about 4,000, 4,700 years, something like that. Okay, so this was the timeline for Paleo, Meso, and Neolithic age. Now, why are we differentiating this prehistoric time? Like, what is so differentiating about Paleolithic, Mesolithic, or Neolithic? So you will find that in Paleolithic age, there was basically old stone age. So what was happening here? The man was not so refined, and what they did was they basically did hunting and gathering, okay, and collecting of food, etc., to fishing, to actually survive. And they used to live in caves. They didn't have any houses, so they used to live where rivers were flowing so that they easily get water. So here you will find that in Paleolithic you had stones which were very very like broad, very very large, okay, and they had no sharpened ends, etc. The stones were used to be thrown at the animals. They were not used for actually hunting like we used in the bow and arrow. This was not present in Paleolithic. So Paleolithic we had very large stones, okay. Then came the Mesolithic. In Mesolithic, you will find a tool called as microliths. Okay, please remember these words. These are really, really important. What is microliths? So microliths are these small tools. So from big stone, you went on to the small stones and small type of tools which can be used to kill animals. Okay, so they were very good for hunting animals. And now we went to Neolithic. So in Neolithic, you will find that all sort of new stone tools have arrived. Okay, the tools have become much sharper. So you will find like this. Now they are making their tools. Okay, so pointed edges, etc. They have polished those tools so that they become much efficient also. Okay, and then new kind of tools have appeared. Okay, in Paleolithic, I already told you man was a hunter and gatherer. In Mesolithic, it was a transition stage, and in Neolithic, they're finally living a settled life. Okay, now you need to know certain sites which are very very important for the purpose of prelims examination, because in prelims they can directly ask you like this is a Paleolithic site, Neolithic site, Mesolithic site, etc. And you have evidences even present in India belonging to these three different stages. Okay, so if you remember something about the Bhimbetka paintings, okay, so you will realize that Bhimbetka is both Paleolithic and this is your homework. Okay, so you need to tell me in the comments below that these Bhimbetka paintings belong to 2 or 3 periods of history. So one I've told you is Paleolithic, and next 2 you need to tell me. Okay, take it as a revision and see if you are actually excelling in remembering the history that you have studied. Okay, so Bhimbetka paintings will fall into this Paleolithic period. Now similarly, what falls in Mesolithic? In Mesolithic, you will find there are certain sites in UP, in MP, in Rajasthan, okay, which fall in this particular category. And in Neolithic, you might remember sites, for example, Dauji Hedling in Assam, for example, Burzahom in Kashmir, okay, Gulfakral, and then all these sites will fall in the Neolithic period. Okay, so I'm not telling you exactly all the sites because that will come in the course of history that we will be coming with soon. But this is like a brief, and here now what I will tell you is basically here take like sticky notes, start writing Paleolithic, Mesolithic and Neolithic. So take 3 different sticky notes, put Paleolithic, Mesolithic and Neolithic, and then in Paleolithic write the sites, and if possible just draw a map and write the sites so that you remember them always. Okay, for example, if somebody asks you where is Chiran, okay, so Chiran is in UP or it's in Bihar, then where is basically Mehergarh or Mahagarh, so then you should know this. Okay, so that is why I'm saying just draw these, okay, like this, and then put the sites so that you will remember them always. Okay, and use different colors, because what happens in our memory, we remember that particular color when we see that in the prelims examination. So suppose if some site is asked, even if we remember it was red color, green color, blue color, we will immediately be able to strike that was it Paleolithic, Mesolithic or Neolithic. Okay, so after discussing in prehistory, we discussed 3 things: Paleo, Meso and Neo. Okay, and in Meso, remember the word called microliths. Now we move on to the next phase called as the proto-history. Okay, and in proto-history, you will find that this is the starting of the Chalcolithic period. Now, what is Chalcolithic? Lithic means stone. What does Chalco means? Copper. So it's a copper stone age. Okay, that means here the presence of copper has been found. Here people have started using copper as a metal. Okay, they might be mixing it with other metals, they might be using it alone, but copper stone age, that means stone has not wiped out completely. People are still using stones for different purposes, but they have also started using copper. And that is why you find that Indus Valley civilization is actually a Chalcolithic age. It is basically falls in this Chalcolithic age because it's a copper stone age. Okay, before we move forward, you will find that Indus Valley civilization is called as one of the ancient civilizations in the world. Why? Because I told you it started somewhere around 3000 BC. Okay, 3000 to 2500, because these timelines, okay, these years, they are still contested. Like you will find many historians writing 2700, some writing 3200, some writing 3000, because there is no perfect, like what we can say, demarcation happening that this is where this Indus Valley civilization started or this is where it ended. Okay, some rough approximations we have, so that is what we are using. Okay, so Indus Valley civilization or the Harappan civilization, or the Sindhu Ghati civilization as it was properly called. So we can say that this was amongst the like 4 or 5 biggest civilizations that were that were present at that time. So what were the other civilizations? So you will find that there was one Chinese civilization. Okay. Then there was Mesopotamian civilization. Okay. Then there was Egyptian civilization. And then there was Indus Valley civilization. So these four civilizations of the world, they are like the oldest civilizations. Okay. Indus Valley civilization, and you know what is the striking part? All of these civilizations developed across a river. Like they had some major river flowing through them. For example, Indus Valley civilization through river Indus, Egyptian civilization through river Nile, Mesopotamia through two rivers Euphrates and Tigris. And Chinese is your homework. So you need to tell me Chinese civilization developed on which river? Was it Huanghe? Was it Yellow? Was it some else river? What? Okay. So four civilizations, ancient civilization, and we should be proud that Indus Valley civilization is also one amongst them. Now we will start with the proto-history, Chalcolithic age, or what we call as the Indus Valley civilization. Okay. So we'll start from the chart now. So 2500 to 1750 is generally the timeline taken for this Indus Valley civilization. Okay. And here you will find, see, why are we calling a civilization, the Indus Valley civilization, as Harappan civilization, or Harappan culture? What is Harappa in this? So you will find Harappa was one of the big cities, like one of the 3 or 4 big cities. What are the other cities in the Indus Valley civilization? Those are big. For example, Mohenjo-daro. For example, Harappa. For example, Kalibangan. For example, Dholavira. So these are like the really large sites that we have discovered, which were present in the Indus Valley civilization. Okay. So that is why, because the Harappa was discovered, like it was the first site to be discovered from this particular Indus Valley civilization, we started calling this Indus Valley civilization as the Harappan civilization. Okay. The Harappa basically means a city. So if I have to draw a map of India, okay, a tentative map. So you will find that this particular area, so river Indus, basically it comes from, so it comes from near Mansarovar, it comes like this, goes from Leh Ladakh region, flows like here, and then you have like basically Panchnar system, okay, Indus and its tributaries. What were those? Indus, what are the tributaries of Indus? Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Beas, or Satluj. So you will find that wherever they flow, okay, so this particular area, along with the rivers in this northwestern region, okay, where Ghaggar is there, Saraswati is there, and then all these rivers which were earlier present, okay. So this particular area, you can majorly say was the extent of Indus Valley civilization, going till the northwest, okay. So because at that time India was not just the India, it was called as the what today we call as the Indian subcontinent was India. So we had Pakistan also, we had Afghanistan also, little bit of that present in India, okay. So you will find that major sites like Mohenjo-daro was there, okay, Charnodaro was also there, then there will be Kotdiji, then there will be Dholavira, then there will be Lothal, okay. Then there will be Kalibangan also. Then you will find Harappa, which is so Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, the two most important sites, okay, of Harappan civilization are present today in Pakistan. They're not present in India, okay. So it's in today's Pakistan, somewhere here, okay, Harappa. And then there will be Kalibangan, as I already told you. And then there was a new site which was in news, okay, which is basically Rakhi Gadi. Rakhi Gadi, which is in Haryana, which is also being called as one of the big cities because it is a habitation site, it was a factory site, and it was a site where you have found a lot of structures also, lot of sculptures, lot of basically factories for making bangles, etc. And that is why this site has become very famous and prominent, specifically now, because they're discovering more and more about this site. Okay, so remember, Rakhi Gadi is a new site and it has been found in Haryana. Okay, so there are certain major centers in this Harappan civilization, and as you can see here, and you will find that Harappan civilization had some sort of a some few starking features which are present even today. So Harappan civilization, the town planning they had, the grid pattern, okay. So they had roads like this. There will be bigger road, then there will be smaller roads, then there will be much smaller roads like this. So they had a rectangular pattern of roads, okay. And below these roads, you will find basically drains, okay. And then you had manholes also. So if there is a drain, there is a manhole for cleaning it on regular intervals, okay. Then you had proper like houses present. They had, every house has a courtyard, every house has a bathroom also. So you will find a certain element of town planning, okay. Even the brick size was 4:2:1. That means 4 was the length, so this part was 4, okay. This part was 2. So if I have to draw a cuboid, so let's just draw a cuboid, okay. This is 4, this length, this is 2, okay, breadth, and then height is 1. So 4:2:1 was the brick structure, and you will find that these standard size bricks were only used through the entire town. And most of these cities were divided into two parts, west and east. Okay, wherein the west part was the citadel part, or little higher part, but little smaller also, where like you can say most administrative kind of buildings were found, like granaries were there. Great path in Mohenjo-daro was present in this particular citadel. Okay, and it was, you will find that it was a race. It was built on a raised platform. It was little smaller in size than the rest of the city. Okay, and you will find that most of the cities have also been like guarded by different gates. So there will be gates which are separating west and east. There will be gates which are protecting the city. Then, what are the few striking features about the religious worship? So you will, it's on their like as a bajuband also on their shoulders. So there was a presence. It was considered that they might be knowing about something called as black magic also. Okay, they used to worship nature, and but there were no religious temples that have been found. Okay, there was no presence of horses because it has been asked in UPSC. Okay, horses were not found in this particular time period. Okay, then what about the agriculture? So obviously they used to grow certain crops, and which were very common. For example, rice was there. There was wheat also. There was cotton also, and they used to have extensive trade contacts with like other civilizations, like Somalian civilization, and they used to like get a lot of things from outside and export also. So they used to get this blue stone from lapis lazuli from Afghanistan. Okay, they used to get like jadeite stone from China. They used to get like copper from Oman, etc. So the copper tin, etc. So they used to get different items from different places. Okay, so there was extensive import and export happening. Then they were very famous for their sculpture making. Okay, so they were proper, like there was you will find that there have been sculptures of a priest. There have been sculptures of a torso only. Okay, there has been basically a dancing girl statue that has been found. So, and you will find that they have like a very good, they were very good at making and drawing and their art and craft, because you have found that there are motifs, like for example these trifoil patterns present on a shawl of a priest that we found as a sculpture. Okay, then there was a presence of seals. Okay, so seals you have found, and they are different shapes like circular, triangular, rectangular. There are different shapes that you have found in seals. In seals you have found certain symbols like pi also present. Okay, and these seals also had like pictures. So in seals you will find the pictures of a unicorn. You will find the pictures of a proto Shiva. Okay, so like that you have found the pictures also on seal. And seal can be used either for the import export purposes, or they can be used for educational purpose also. We are not very sure about the purpose as of now. Okay, then what about the dressing sense? So you will find that men and women used to wear certain like ornaments also. There was a presence, there has been a presence of, you know, women wearing makeup also, different styles of hair. So you have found like a proper, or you can say you have found a lot of things, and these things are still continuing till present. And this was the question in the mains. Okay, that while the earlier civilizations elsewhere in the world, they actually lost their presence, but in India you seem to have maintained continuity starting from the past and going till ancient valley civilization, like this Indus Valley civilization. So this was the element that you had to write, that town planning is still there, the women were wearing makeup. Okay, there is an administrative setup, there is not, so something like that. Okay, there is extensive presence of pottery. You have found pottery can be plain, it can be painted. Okay, and it was red and blackware, and you have found that this pottery was used for different purposes. So pottery was used for storage, it was used for basically straining liquor also, and it was used for decorative purposes also. So this was like the very broad overview about the Indus Valley civilization, and here I'll tell you like some important things that you have found in a particular city, which are at least mentioned on the slide. So Harappa, you will find that in Harappa, it was famous for 6 granaries that have been found in Harappa. Then Mohenjo-daro is famous for granaries, like large size granaries. Then there was a great bath which was present, and there was a dancing girl statue that was also found in Mohenjo-daro. Kalibangan, you have found a plowed field. Okay, you have found a plowed field, and you have also found a fire altar. That means the fire was prominently being used. In Dholavira, you will find the city was divided into 3 parts. You have also found a very large, you can say, a written script form. Okay, and these all 3 different parts were protected by the gates. Then Lothal was called as the inland dockyard, or it was the first man-made dockyard of the Harappan civilization, and it was basically built on rivers. So in Gujarat, you will find that it was built. Okay, so this was very brief about certain cities, but there are definitely more cities than this. Okay, like there's Kojidi, there is Chandudaro, then there will be There'll be cities in like this area also. So what you need to do is basically, then there is Shor Thugai also, okay, and Sutka Kendor also. So you will find that there are many cities in this Harappan civilization, and you cannot leave anyone, especially for prelims, because in mains you don't have to write every city. You have to just remember few and then you have to write. But for prelims, you need to remember which city was present where. So what you need to first do is basically learn the extent of Indus Valley civilization. Okay. So this is your homework to write what was the north extent, south extent, east and west extent. Okay. So there are particular cities which are present here. Okay, that you need to write, and then you need to basically draw the diagram, draw a map, and then write all the major cities like where is Amir Diji, Kot Diji, Chanhodaro, Mohenjo-daro, Kalibangan, Harappa, Rakhigarhi, okay, Dholavira, Lothal, and there are many more sites also. So you need to fill in those gaps. Okay. So with this, we will actually finish the Harappan civilization. Okay. Now, what happened after Harappa? So see, there are so in Harappa, remember in Harappa also there are like 4 divisions. One is basically pre-Harappa, then is basically early Harappa, then you have late Harappa, and then you have basically post-Harappa. So basically, is in the sense that you have basically sites which are just developing, for example, Mehergarh, okay, which are just developing, which they started developing before Harappa. Then there is early Harappan civilization sites also. Then there are late, means that these are this is the time when there is a proper urban civilization which has been developed. Okay, for example, you will fill Mohenjo-daro, Kalibangan, etc. in the late, and then post Harappa basically tells you the stories of decline. Okay, of how Harappan civilization declined. Okay, so there are many theories which have been proposed for how Harappan civilization might have declined. They said that there would have been earthquake, there might have been floods, there might have been like a drought, or there might have been drying up of rivers or river changing courses, or there was an Aryan invasion theory. Okay, so none of these theories actually we can say that this is the reason, because all of these theories are just they have certain evidences, but not one theory has nullified the other theory. So this has been asked in mains also before, that what are the theories, different theories for decline of Harappan civilization, and you have to write all of them. Okay, floods, earthquakes, the disasters like drought, the river changing its courses, or we can say overexploitation of natural resources, and then Aryan invasion theory. With this, we actually finish the Harappan civilization. Now what we will move towards is towards the advent of Aryans. So this Aryans is basically a particular race, and it is said that they came from European side and they invaded India. Okay, so they came around 1700 to 1500 BC. This is BC all, okay. BC means before Christ, and AD means Anno Domini. Okay, so AD is basically, AD will start, you can say, so see, there is 0, this and this. So this is AD and this is BC, and this is basically we say as the year of Christ was born. So before him, before Christ, and after him basically we had Anno Domini. Okay, so never get confused on the dates again. So now we will find that from 1750 to 1500 BC we had advent of Aryans in India. Okay, so now who are these Aryans? Aryans were basically, I told you, this was a particular race which came from the European side, and they actually came to India and invaded. And that is when we start basically say that 1500 BC is the starting age of Aryan age, or what we call as the Vedic age. Okay, so now basically will be the start of Vedic period, and 1500 to 500 BC is, or 500 or 600 BC is basically your Vedic age. Now Vedic age has also been divided into 2 parts. One is the later Vedic period, and other one is the later Vedic, and one is the Rig Vedic. The Rig Vedic comes first. So 1500 to 1000 BC is your Rig Vedic period, and then 1000 BC to 600 BC is your later Vedic period. Okay, 1500 to 1000 BC is your Rig Vedic period, in the sense that here you will find the book called as Rig Veda present. Okay, here you will find a different social life, different economical life, and that changes from this 1000 BC to 600 BC, and that is why we say that this is a later Vedic period. Okay, so you can see here 1500 to 1000 BC is the Rig Vedic period. So in this period, remember that there was no presence, like the women had a very commanding position. Okay, and there was no, there had been, like you can say that women were treated like almost equal to men. They used to participate in the assemblies. Okay, they were great women saints and poets also you can find in this particular era. And then in 1500 to 1000 BC, you will find that there was no king as such, but and you know, like they didn't the kings didn't have palaces like basically they were tribes, and there was a person heading those tribes. Okay, and he was heading those tribes only because that all the people in the tribes agreed to him being a leader. So there was no monarchical form, but there was, you can say, a certain what do I call it, a certain kind of an agreement between the leader and the tribe that, yeah, okay, you lead us. Okay, here cow and land were the two essential, you can say, like two winning properties. So if you go for a war, or if you go for a particular battle, what you want to achieve from the battle is basically cows or the cattle and the land from it. Okay, here you will find that the natural gods, okay, like for example, you have Indra, you have Agni, you have Varun, you have Vayu. So these gods were more prominently like worshipped. And in the later Vedic period, you will find then the gods like Mahesh, Vishnu, etc., like Rudra, they came into picture. Okay, so here you will find natural gods being worshipped, and here then in the later stages you will find that the gods in the form of idols, etc., being worshipped. Here you will find that there was no rigid caste system. Basically, there was no caste system only. There was Varna classification, wherein our society was divided into 4 Varnas. Okay, and that was not on the basis of birth. That was on the basis of occupation, the work you do. So if you are basically good at reciting those shlokas, you will be a Pandit, you will be a Brahman. And if you want to be good trader, you want to be like trading with people, doing export import business, etc., then you will be a Vaishya. Okay, so how was the classification? Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. Okay, so Brahmins were the one who were very good with reciting poems, learning these Vedas, and spreading the knowledge around. Then Kshatriyas were the one who were fighting to protect the country, etc. Then Vaishyas were the one who were trading and who were involved in this business, and Shudras were the one who were giving services to the above 3. So you could fall in any of these categories depending what work you like to do. Okay, it was not that Brahmin's son will be Brahmin or Shudra's son will be Shudra. No, it depended on what you wanted to do. But this Varna system present in the Rig Vedic period transitioned into a strict caste system based on the ascription, based on birth, based on where you are taking birth. If you are taking birth in Brahmin's place, you will be a Brahmin, and if you are taking birth in a Shudra's house, you will be a Shudra. So this Varna to caste transformation, it took place in this later Vedic period from 1000 to 600 BC. In the first part, 1500 to 1000 BC, which is the Rig Vedic period, you have a book called as the Rig Veda, and the other 3 Vedas, Sam, Yajur and Athar, are present in the later Vedic period. Okay, so these are like some broad distinctions. These are like some broad criteria or categories that I'm discussing here, because each detail is not possible to be discussed in such a very short lecture. So what we are doing is just the overview, okay? And you can make charts. I'm repeating it again. Please make sticky notes and stick it on your wall chart if you want to actually make good use of it. Okay. Now, what we have studied basically proto-history, prehistory, proto-history, history. In history, you have started with Indus Valley civilization. You started with this Vedic period, okay? In Vedic period also, we studied Rig Veda and later Vedic period. Now, this is around the 600 BC time. Okay, now 600 BC is called as the time period where a lot of things changed. Okay, in 600 BC, you will find there was the rising of Janpadas or Mahajanpadas. Okay, in the political and economic sense. Here you will find a lot of cities, etc., big towns coming also. Then, at this time period only, you will find the birth of 2 great religions of the world which are existing today, which is Buddhism and Jainism. And if you have to take it to the world also, then you will find that this was a time period of birth of Zoroastrianism. Okay, so 3 major religions appeared at the same time: Buddhism, Jainism and Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism is basically the Parsis. Okay, so here you will find that after Vedic period, you have that 600 BC. Okay, and in 600 BC, 3 things are happening. I told you there is a rise of Mahajanpadas, there is a rise of like townships, and then there is a rise of 3 great religions: Buddhism, Jainism and Zoroastrianism. Okay, so here you will find that simultaneously 2-3 things are happening. So this, so what are the great towns or Mahajanpadas? For example, Avanti. Okay, for example, Magad. And now what we will restrict ourselves as to is Magad, because all of the towns that were existing or Mahajanpadas were existing, they all like slowly got merged with Magad. Okay, so in Magad, then we will learn the succession of different rulers. Like it started with Haranka dynasty, then came the Shashangas, then came the Nandis, and then finally we came to the Mauryas. Okay, so this is how this whole transition takes place. So this we will see in a short while.